Hey, what's up guys, so Emanon here, coming to you with a video fresh off of the top cut of the LCS 3v3. So my friends and I put together a team and we managed to get to top 8, unfortunately losing out. It was kind of a disappointing way to go out, not gonna lie. My friend had a internet disconnection issue, so he got a game loss there and ended up just not working out. And then I got paired up against the Dragon Link mirror match. As you can see on the screen, I did play Dragon Link for this event. But I played the mirror match, lost the die roll, he won game 1, I won game 2, and then game 3, I drew Droll Lancia, which is like probably the worst combo of hand traps out of the 15 that I had post side, and neither of them were really impactful given his hand. He was just able to play through both, and then I drew Gamma for turn. So, it kind of happens, it just, the way the Dragon Link mirror kind of shakes out. But all in all, it was still a pretty decent performance, especially given the fact that one of my friends has been out of the game for over a year now and just wanted to come back in because he's in med school, so obviously not very much free time there to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But had some free time here, so it was nice. We had fun. It was nice to kind of like relearn the metagame from like a very, very competitive point of view. So I had a lot of fun here. And today I'm going to be doing a very similar thing to what I did last month with Goki. I'm going to do a live deck building sort of thought process kind of deck profile, if you will. So where I start from scratch and then just go ahead and talk through my card choices, what I was thinking, why I played certain cards, why I didn't play others, etc., etc. Like the kind of metagame read, as well as just what I was anticipating going in. If you guys do want to see the replays, I do have all of them saved because you can access them at any time on Dueling Book. So feel free to let me know if you guys want to see the matchups. A lot of them were kind of just like not that great, if I'm going to be honest, on either side. That's kind of what you get when you play this deck. But if you guys still want to see the games, definitely leave a comment down below, and I will be able to do that for you guys if you so desire. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started here. So we did play Dragon Link, as I mentioned, so I'm just gonna rename this to Dragon Link for the sake of the video. So starting off with the starters, I played 3 copies of Black Metal Dragon, which is actually kind of worth talking about because some people were considering dropping this in favor of cards that don't lose to Droll. So you guys probably have seen Cody Angeloff's list where he played Parley Dragon Maid as well as Dragon Maid Tidying. Because that can get your full combo started past Droll. The thing is that I figured that Droll was kind of falling off in popularity a little bit, at least in the main deck as compared to the last LCS. Like last LCS, I saw that was in a lot of people's main decks, but this time around, I didn't really run into a game 1. So I figured that if anything, it would be in people's side decks. But even still, like there's a lot of instances, like I mentioned kind of just now when I was talking about my top 8 matchup, you can open a hand that simply just doesn't lose to it if you don't open this card, and it's kind of conflicting as far as like why you would play this card specifically, because like we're talking about the card itself and not the cards around it when trying to justify whether or not something loses to Droll, right? But even still, like if you resolve your double searches off Striker and Metal, a lot of the time, if you just have any tuner extender, you can play, because you don't actually technically need Romulus to be able to combo at that point. It's just a way to be safe by putting Herald up first. So you have like Tracer, Quick Launch, those kinds of things, then you are in a good spot in a lot of cases. So yeah, I figured that Black Metal was still worth playing, and obviously Red MD is to pair with it. Yeah, this card I definitely would have played either way, even if I wasn't playing Black Metal, simply because I do the play a lot where you go Striker Dragon as follow-up to pop itself and add back Recharger, and then Recharger summons this back. So this gets you like a lot of bodies as follow-up. It's very, very nice, and I think it was definitely worth playing, even if you weren't playing the Black Metal. But yeah, I just figured like having access to this was very nice because a lot of the times you were trying to get like this in circulation as well as Levianeer or Tracer, and Tracer rather, not Ore. You want like all of those at some point. So just more avenues of access is pretty good in a lot of cases there. So yeah, also as kind of like a supplementary card, we have 1 for 1. This is both a starter and an extender. I can get things like Brotar later or Black Metal earlier. So just one of the better cards to put in the deck for sure. Next up, we got Chaos Space, which is gonna sound weird that I also considered cutting this card, because like there was a point where I was respecting Droll a lot, but I figured like I came to the conclusion that you can't really afford to sacrifice that level of power. Like Chaos Base has so much power in that like you don't need your normal summon, so it makes just the tuner extension a lot easier because it makes drawing like Red Rose Dragon, for example, or Violent Cube if you play it. Like drawing those types of cards like still work if you get hand trapped. So yeah, just having the ability to not commit your normal summon early is like very, very impactful, and the draw as well is nice. But yeah, this card, obviously, it also does lose to Droll, but I figured that you probably have to just play more under the assumption that your opponent is more likely statistically to open like Gamma, Imperm, Veiler, Ash type cards rather than specifically Droll, because there's only 3 Droll, but there's a lot more of like those point disruptions, right? So in the end, I figured that having this level of power will be better to play against something like Nibiru, because again, just being able to preserve your normal summon is what allows you to do that. And Nibiru I did figure was more popular than Droll, and it certainly was, because I didn't really run into Droll game 1. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but yeah, like I ran into Nibiru quite more often in game number 1, so I figured that like having like better contingencies thanks to Chaos Base, not only getting started without your normal summon but also getting you an extra resource to hand, is what would allow you to play a lot more efficiently in those cases. Honestly, this kind of just says if you have Droll, you have it, right? And even then, again, it's not the end of the world if you have a tuner extender. So to pair with that, we got Clap Serpent, Wyvern Burster. No need to explain those there. And then I also opted to play Safer. There's definitely debates on ratios for this, but I opted to play 1. So playing 3 does give you more 1-card starters, but this is definitely the weakest one because it loses to a lot more cards by itself. Now, to be fair, a lot of people would preserve their disruptions not on Safer, like because a lot of people are just hitting Romulus right now, right? Because that's just public enemy number 1. But that being said, you don't ever want to lose to a point where like Safer is your choke point. For some reason somebody hits it, because like even though you shouldn't play assuming your opponents are going to play poorly, in the event that that happens, you never really would want to be stuck in that situation. But beyond that, it still is just worse than Metal and Chaos Space, like just categorically. So even like putting that kind of a thought experiment of how your opponents are disrupting you aside, like these cards just get you farther by themselves. So yeah, I really do think that 1 is all you really need to be able to get access to off of Brotar, so you can add back Levianeer to get your push. But apart from that, like it's fine to draw as a starter if it is like the only play that you have. It's just like I'm never happy if this is the one that I have. I'd rather like draw these ones. I'm never as happy, I should say. But yeah, like this is still like a good card in its own right, and there's an argument to play more for sure. But I was playing a 45 card list, so it wasn't quite 40. But I really did want to cut down on the cards that I felt wouldn't be as ideal for their slots, if that makes sense. I just rather have a utility for other things. So next we can move on to extenders. So I opted to play Noctivision. Oops, not a 3, but at 2. 3 was like working for me alright, but honestly, just having multiples is not that great. Granted, to be fair, like this card is just a really nice way to get into Romulus, and like it doesn't lose that hard to Droll if you like specifically plan for it. Like if you don't open a rocket, then you don't have to like worry about the tuner extender kind of deal with boot sector as kind of like a way to ensure that your plays go through. So like you can go striker and then not use striker effect and then just trigger Nocto, and that way you can chain block the Romulus while still playing under Droll. So like you play around Droll and Gamma that way. So like I still think it's fine, even if Droll was more popular, but I figured again it wasn't as popular. But again, I didn't want 3 because like it just isn't the best extender in this deck, but it still is a good card for its slot. So I figured it was a pretty decent choice for this particular event. And then in my opinion, the best extender is World Legacy Guard Dragon. This card you would rather see than Noctivision. So that's why I would rather play 3 than 2, because like this is a card that I would rather see multiples of than none of. Whereas like Noctivision specifically is not the card I'm itching to draw a lot of the time, but this card can fix a lot of game states where you get interrupted, which is pretty much every game, because I don't think there's a single game where I didn't get interrupted in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, you just have to respect the opponent's going to have hand traps for you. So next up we have, trying to remember here my own list, we have Quick Launch is the next extender. This is one of the better extenders because it is a tuner extender and a dragon extender. So it allows you to get access to your big kind of power plays in Romulus and Halkifibrax. This is a way to also play around Gizmic Uka, because if they Uka you and you have Quick Launch, you can chain the Quick Launch to the Uka, and then you can trace or pop whatever they target with Uka's second effect. So that's kind of an interaction there. This card is like really good, of course. It's just not once per turn, so it is one of the better cards to play for sure. What else about this card? I'm trying to think. There's like more interactions, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head right now. So we're just gonna move on. We got 3 copies of Tracer. I opted to play 3 Tracer and not 2. A lot of people are cutting this down as well, because again, like if you get disrupted, you want to be able to have tuner extension, and if you have boot sector, which in most cases you will, unless you're again specifically just trying to play around Joel for some reason, then this is like the way that you get out of it. So like just having not just like the quick launch, but also like hard drawing Tracer is pretty valuable in a lot of those instances. So Fado is fine. With that, we have Recharger. This card is just nuts. I used its effect pretty much every game that involved a follow-up. So yeah, this card was integral to me winning those games. I don't think I would have gotten that far if I just didn't make use of its effect, because this card is just really good. I also opted to play Synchron. This is like kind of, I wouldn't say a controversial choice, but it's not like a universal choice, right? But this is a card that can help you in spots where you need to like striker put stuff back in your hand, or if like you need Tracer to pop boot sector to get like another monster to go to guard dragon plays. Like just having access to like another target is nice, and I opted to pick this over level 4, even though it makes like sometimes making Savage a little bit harder in the events where you draw Recharger, just because like this has a lot of utility, and again being a tuner, so you can even draw this with boot sector and still go for your play. So it's like there's a lot of ways to just play through interruptions, just going into a Hulk after your Romulus gets stopped. So that's pretty good. The normal summon effect doesn't come up that much. I don't think I use it at all, but in theory it could bring back Nocto or Absolutor, which I actually did play as well, to be able to go into like a Savage if you find yourself in that spot. But yeah, I did play Absolutor. So I figured either I was gonna play all the cards that were like powerful, like Black Metal or Chaos Space, or is this gonna like respect Joel a lot? And if I'm going to play the power cards, then I might as well play more cards that like maybe are weaker against Joel but offer more utility in other spots. So this card is really nice because it helps you when your Romulus gets something like Ghost Ogred, so that way you can add something like Dragon Ravine, which I actually did play. And the Ravine Sun Absolutor is yet another way to just get you to Tracer, which is another way to be able to play past that interruption. So just more ways to be able to play. I was expecting that Romulus was just going to never resolve. And again, I figured that was more statistically likely that people were going to go after Romulus than getting drolled, right? So I figured that having access to this kind of play as a contingency was a pretty nice option to have. These could get cited out if you're going second in a lot of cases if you need space. But yeah, these are very nice utility cards. Again, I liked having just variability if like you do find yourself getting stopped, because again, you shouldn't expect your combo to resolve a lot of the time. For that reason, I did actually consider cutting the Rose Dragon package, because rarely was I finding myself in situations where I was actually summoning these off fiber and using like this and a Link Cross token to make a Herald. Like I was most of the time, like I would say 95% of the time, summoning Herald prior to making fiber, because that's just a safer play, right? So in the cases where you're doing that, you're not really making use of this. Like you just summon Synchron off of fiber and it does exactly the same thing. It's just that I actually found a lot of spots in testing where summoning this later and like pairing it with like a Legacy Guard Dragon to bring back Black Metal, or even Brotar and making Herald that way was good. In the cases where like your Romulus got stopped, but you're still able to make fiber. That way you can like still end in Herald and the full combo, which is cool. And White Rose is actually a nice extender, just because I am playing so much tuner emphasis. Like I'm putting so much emphasis on the tuners, right? So because I'm playing Synchron and Absolutor and maxing out Tracer, it's a lot more likely for me to actually have White Rose to be live. And like drawing these like is still like fine. It's not like the worst thing. You could argue that since I was going all in, kind of like you can see like I was just trying to play probably one of the more powerful iterations of the list that you could, as opposed to safety. You could argue that in that case maybe I should have played Violent Cube with the Smoke Grenade package. It's just I really dislike drawing Cube, and I think that like one of the reasons why Joel can be still like not impactful is that like you can do the one card play and like not have to rely on searches at that point. So there's like cases where you can get Joeled, and then like still summon these and go through these, and that's fine. But like Cube just hard loses to it later. So like it's less problematic if your starters lose to Joel than if like your mid game section loses to Joel if you don't have the proper extension. So that's kind of the way I saw it. So Smoke Grenade, very good. But I figured that like not a lot of people would be on board breakers as much as hand traps, because especially against like Infernoble, you just need hand traps. You can't really afford to get your cards ripped with Smoke Grenade. So like as long as that deck exists in the format, I think it's okay to be able to like not have to greed super hard, and just go for the Rose Dragons instead. I found it to be pretty good. Next up we got more utility, that is Brotar and Levianeer. No real explanation needed there. Yeah, these cards are just crazy. Yeah, I really don't have anything to say. Next, we have... oh, I forgot one of the best extenders. Emergency Teleport. So I did play Gamma in my list in the main deck. But this is just like another tuner extender. I'll put it up here. Yeah, this is another tuner extender. Do it to summon Gamma from deck. So like when you get hand trapped, it's just a good option there. So pretty good. And then we have some of the quote-unquote garnets, if you will, or just the cards that like you don't really want to draw, but it's not like worst case scenario. So you have Brute Sector, you have Lance, Divine Lance, and we have Dragon Buster's Destruction Sword. So these cards are like not really problematic to draw. They're just not ideal to draw because you get access to them anyway. Yeah, Ravine is nice as just a secondary Romulus target, but like it still is nice to be able to just play both of these as just options. Again, utility I found and versatility was very nice in a deck like this, because with such a big target on its back, people are going to prepare for it very heavily. So I think you just have to prepare for worst case scenario. Next we have Phalanx, which is like the only real bricky card, but a lot of the time you can just go summon an extender and then use Romulus's other effect to get this out of hand if you go for a Striker Dragon underneath it. So this is fine. I didn't really have an issue with this. Yeah, no real complaints there. And then finally the hand trap lineup. So I play 3 Nibiru, which I think was in almost everyone's deck. Yeah, this card I think is just a must play right now. Similar with Gamma. I think Gamma was in most people's decks. Just because like it's the most impactful point disruption hand trap out there. So yeah, I figured that this was a pretty good choice in a lot of cases. And then we have Imperm. So I was playing Joel in the main for a little while, but I just found that a lot of times like Joel by itself is enough to stop their turn. So I relegated it to the side deck so that I could have it with other hand traps. Like it's good if you have it with like another hand trap that can stop them. But by itself, it isn't guaranteed to end your opponent's turn. And against Infernoble too, they don't actually need to search that much if they're going for like the VFD combo, for example. Because like really they're searching like off of Garden Rose Maiden, and like they don't technically need to search anymore because a lot of people are off Power Tool now. Not everyone, but a lot of people are off of it. So yeah, I think that like Joel isn't universally applicable. It is good in a lot of matchups, but definitely not like the best standalone hand trap if you're like playing like 9. And even though Imperm as well isn't enough to stop their turn all the time, it has more utility across different matchups, and it is like better as in theory a going second card. If you just draw it for turn. Like that's not like a great reason to play it over Joel, but I just figured it was more widely useful in a lot of those cases. So yeah, I figured that this would be a lot more safer of a pick, excuse me. So yeah, this is the list for the main deck. Things I would possibly change, it would kind of just depend on what hand traps people are playing going forward and what people are not playing. I know Jesse Cotton is on Sarvis because he searched it against me. That's like for Herald. So that's like an option if you like want more insurance cards. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot. Like Dragon Link is fairly solved for a lot of it, but moving forward, it depends on how popular Joel main deck Joel gets. If you really want to play like the Parlor Dragon Maid package with Tidying. But yeah, like overall, this is pretty staple, like pretty standard. So the extra deck is like the standard 14 cards. So I'll just put all the standard 14 cards here. So it's 2 Striker Dragon, the Romulus, the Linkfrost, the Metal Marcher, Herald. We have Fiber, Guard Dragons, LP and Pisty, Protector Whelp, Hieratic Seal, Union Carrier, Savage, Boreal Sword. Like, so these are the standard 14. So the flex spots are either Delingerous, which my top 8 opponent did play, which is useful for like if you have to go LP Pisty, or if you choose to go LP Pisty instead of LP Striker. This clears your Guard Dragons and gives you another body to make Union Carrier slightly easier, which is pretty good. The other thing that Delingerous is useful for, that's pretty much like the main use of Delingerous actually. It could be okay later as well to help push a Boar Sword. The other option was Saryuja, which a lot of people are on, but I'm not a big fan of this card because like if you can make this card going first all the time, you're already winning the game. There's rarely instances where you like have to dig for side deck cards to supplement your end board. Like it is a good card, but I just felt like it wasn't necessary, and I felt like the card that I chose to play, which is their copy of Striker Dragon, actually came up a lot. Because I did choose to go LP Striker instead of LP Pisty, just because it's easier to clear Guard Dragons that way, because you can just neatly go LP plus Fiber into Protector Whelp, and then go Protector Whelp plus Pisty into Seal. That way, like you don't have to have like Fiber plus LP plus Pisty, and then like you can't like link away like one of the Guard Dragons plus Fiber in that case for Protector Whelp, because then you don't have your arrows lined up. So it just made things a lot more convenient, I felt, to go LP Striker. And then third Striker just came up a lot to again do the recharger play. It's not a universally agreed upon choice by any means, but it's a choice that I felt was best for me to be able to navigate those boards later on throughout the game. So yeah, third Striker definitely came up a lot for me, and I was very satisfied with it. I didn't really miss Saryuja at any point, because a lot of times, like, if you're making Saryuja, you're already winning anyway. So it felt, to me, a bit superfluous. I didn't really feel like it was needed, because, like, you're not really, like, at the point you can make Saryuja, like, you either have the extenders or you don't, right? So it's rarely a case where you get hand trapped and like you have enough materials to just make Saryuja and are hopefully just trying to dig. It really works out that way from what I have experienced the testing. So I opted not to play Saryuja. Alright, and then the side deck. So I did mention already, I relegated Joel to the side deck. Oops. Yeah, like this card by itself isn't enough to stop Dragon all the time, and same with Infernoble. But like this is still good against like Invoked Dogmatica. It's good. It's decent against Dino actually. Like I would replace Nib with it actually, because they're just always safe under Misk. And I just feel like it's a good supplement if you have like one of these cards. Like Joel plus one of these is like really, really good. What Joel is not great with is the combination that I unfortunately drew in Top Cut, but I still played, was Lancia. This is also good against Dino. Like you need it for the play with Union Carrier and Seal against Dino. But I also opted to play 3 just because against like Invoked Dogmatica it's decent, and also going second, it's just like another additional hand trap that you could like just board in against Dragon. Like if you draw a Lancia, it's like the weakest one, but it's still at least a hand trap if they open like Chaos Space or Black Metal. Like their strongest plays do get hindered by Lancia to some degree. So it's like still an alright hand trap. It's not as good as Droll. And again, I feel like it's the weakest one, but across other matchups, just considering like the variability, I felt like it was okay. Maybe going forward, I would actually cut this to possibly just one and then like play a different hand trap. Maybe like Ogre, just because like Ogre is kind of hard to respect if like you're playing dragons and like you don't have a way to chain block Romulus. It's kind of like Gamma. And a lot of people did decide to cut Ravine, so like that's kind of a cool thing you could do. Ogre is also like has wide coverage. So yeah, not too much to say there. And then back row removal, I decided to play the kind of the Trinity now. It's Pankratops, Red Reboot, and Harpy's Feather Duster. So yeah, these don't really need explanation. They're just universally good. And then the other back row hate card I decided to play was actually Triple Cosmic. I played this over Lightning Storm just because I really want to hit specific floodgates that would hinder me like mid combo. Like you could argue that like just ripping Lightning Storm would be okay too, but this is just nice as like a defensive card if you're going first in certain matchups, like back row matchups. It's also good like later on into the game just as a top deck or like as an optimistic mind, just like niche applications. I felt like it was just, you know, it was more usable in a lot of different spots. Like you can notice the common trend here is versatility over a lot of other things. So I figured that this was like a fine pick. Storm is alright because again, like this is an aggressive deck, so like it's fine to just storm and then, you know, try and blow your opponent out. But I felt like, you know, Cosmic would be fine in a lot of cases to like, you know, chain it to the Schism or just like do other things with it. Not too dissatisfied with that. And then the final card that I cited was actually Triple Tactics Talent. This card kind of underperformed, where in testing it overperformed, so maybe this is a card I'd have to revisit. But yeah, I don't know if it's just coincidence, but so many times I got hit with Imperm when I specifically drew this, and then when I didn't draw this, I got hit with like the monster hand traps. So yeah, it was definitely unfortunate. And this did get Ash, I believe, one time as well, which, you know, didn't really do me any favors at that point. But it's also a nice utility going second against, you know, certain decks that play like Dragoon or whatever. I know Dragoon's not very popular right now, but it's something to still keep in the back of your mind. And it's still like a good go first card, just to be able to like ensure that you have more ways to play. The other card I was considering was a Pointer. And a Pointer might have been better in this slot, kind of just looking back in hindsight, because I rarely did side Triple Tactics Talent going second. So yeah, it probably would have been beneficial if I had a Pointer in those spots. But yeah, this is a pretty, you know, standard list, I would say. I'm just gonna click A to Z in case you guys are tired of looking at that order. Yeah, this is like, there's nothing really to write home about this list. It's not anything like really crazy. I just decided to play kind of a steady list. I did actually forget about Monster Reborn, by the way. I probably should have found space for Reborn. Not that actually, it's not that I forgot about it. It's just that like, I don't know, I didn't want to go to 46, and I figured like having a starter or an extender in 1-for-1 was like good, and then like all these other cards were fine to play. Cards maybe worth changing. Well, I already mentioned like the hand trap lineup kind of depends with like the parlor and stuff. Kind of same deal with the Red Rose. You actually don't really need these cards all the time if you just play more extenders. So maybe that's a thought. But yeah, I just got bombarded with a lot of hand traps this event. So that's kind of what I was expecting and what I signed up for. So you kind of just have to know how to play past those spots where you do get disrupted, because this deck can be disrupted if you are not prepared for it. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to see my replays and have me upload them, I will be more than happy to do so. Just leave a comment down below. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe for more informative and competitive video content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All the links in the description as always. And once again, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.